Today's video is going to show you how to calculate a grade percentage, and therefore you'll be able to figure out the grade you earn on an assignment or on a test or quiz. So please add this note sheet to the back of your notebook so that you can look for it easily whenever you need it. The inside of the notes will look like this. I'm not going to go into detail about the skill levels for mastery, but you do have them now in your notebook, so you can refer to these if you're ever curious. But we're going to be working on the left part of the notes sheet, so please be ready for that. So at the top, how to calculate a grade. So step one, you're going to take the score you earned and divide it by the total points possible. For example, if on a quiz it's written 18 over 23, that means you got 18 points at a total of 23. You would put 18 divided by 23 in a calculator, and it's going to be a long decimal. These dots means it continue on. So with your calculator now, I'd like you to try this. If you got 26 points out of a 30-point homework assignment, what would you do for step one? So you should type into your calculator 26 divided by 30, and it will say 0.86 repeating. So these sixes will go on for the entire length of the calculator, and that's why I've rounded this number up to a 7, because 6 would bump the fourth number up to a 7. Now, step two is that you take the decimal you got in your calculator and multiply it by 100 in order to convert it to a percent. So in the example here, you take the number from your calculator times 100, and now this is a percent. So please try that with the U-Try. What would this number, for rounding to 4 decimal places, become as a percent? Well, you take that value and multiply by 100, it's going to be about 86.67%. And then step three is that we round it up to the nearest whole percent. So for the example in your notes, you have 79.2609. Well, to be a whole percent, you look at the whole number. You go to the number to the right. This number is less than 5. That means that this stays an 8. So this is a 78%. So what would 86.67% become if you round it to the nearest whole percent? Well, in this case, we look at the whole number here. We go to the right. 6 is greater than 5. Therefore, we round this up to a 7. So it becomes 87%. And then the last step is find the percent in the grade range. Now, these grade ranges are for 7th grade math classes. Not all of your 7th grade classes will do these same breakdowns. Most of these will be the same, but some of your teachers might have a different D and F range. So just wanting to point that out. This is the case for all 7th grade math teachers, but it might not be the case for all of your teachers or even your 8th grade teachers next year. So to find the grade, for example, 78%, that is in the range here between 70 and 79, and it's closer to 79, so therefore it's a C+. What would 87% be as a grade? Well, that falls in this range, and it's on the higher end, so in most cases it would be regarded as a B+. What about 57%? What would that grade be? Well, that would fall in the D range, but on the lower end, so that would be a D minus. And last you try for this, what would 90% be? Well, 90% falls at the end of the lower end of the A range, so it's an A minus. Okay, so now it's time for you to practice solving some of these actually on this paper. So you should have this little half sheet of paper in order to do these 3 problems. So please try number 1. You're completing a math homework on digits and you keep getting one problem wrong. So if you submit a digits assignment with 10 out of 11 problems correct, what is your score as a percentage? So therefore you're getting 10 out of 11 correct. You're going to take 10 and divide by 11. I have rounded this up to a 1 because it was a 0 and a 9. 9 would round it up to a 1. Then you multiply by 100. You'll get 90.91. So now it's a percent. And therefore, if we round to the nearest percent, it's going to be 91%. And as a grade, that would be an A minus. Please try number 2. On your science test, you get 31 points out of a total of 40 points. What is your grade as a percentage? What is your letter grade for the test? So we have 31 out of 40 points. We're going to do the division step. 31 divided by 40 will equal 0.775. Multiply by 100 to convert that to a percent. So now we have about 77.5%. And to get the nearest whole percent, we round 7 up because 5 or greater means it rounds up. And this would be a C+. Please try number 3, even though this is not the same type of problem we've been doing. Try to think about what you would do before you watch the video. So in this one, we're given a percent because we want to get at least a 75% on the digits homework. And if there are a total of 15 problems, the question is how many problems can you miss, or how many do you need to get right and still earn at least a 75% or 75% or greater? So in this case, 75% is the same thing as 75 over 100. 75% means 75 per 100, or 75 hundredths. So 75% as a decimal is 0.75. If we want to get 75% of 15 problems, we take 0.75 and we multiply by 15. That will be 11.25. Now, you can get partial points on digits, like if you got half a problem wrong, but we're going to talk about what, in case there aren't multiple parts to a problem. Therefore, this number has to get rounded up because we want at least a 75%. If we only get 11 correct, so we take off this 0.25, that means you'll actually get less than 75%. So we have to round up to the next whole number, which is 12. So that means you need to get at least 12 problems correct in order to have a 75% or higher. So therefore, you can miss 3 problems and you will get a score higher than a 75%. So just to prove it to you, if you take your calculator and we do 12 divided by 15, because you're going to get 12 right out of 15, that's going to equal 0.8. We multiply by 100, and it is 80%. So it's more than 75%. It is an 80%. But let's say you only get 11 problems right. 11 divided by 15, long repeating decimal, times 100 means you would get a 73%. So it's less than a 75%, but as a grade, it would still be a C.